Let's welcome Rashi Talwar Bhatia, who joins in on the show. She's the partner and portfolio manager at Ashmore. Rashi, always a pleasure speaking with you. Just wanted your thoughts on what you make of the market after this correction. What are the kind of opportunities that you find attractive at these levels?
So, Mangalam, actually, I think the markets, we've seen quite a serious sell-off on the large caps. But when it comes to the small and mid caps, we're still trading at one standard deviation above long-term average. Large caps are now trading at about 16 times 1 year forward in a good range where you're starting to see some price corrections in stocks where they're starting to look interesting. And I think, we've seen nearly $26 billion of selling from FIIs over the last 6 months. I think most of it is done, so a lot of it is behind us. And when they start to come back, you will see them starting to come back first in the large caps, and that's where they will, that's where the flows will come initially. So honestly, on the small and the mid, I still continue to be not so constructive. You've seen sharp drawdowns on a bunch of names, and one-off stocks may start to look interesting. Where the earnings growth story continues to remain strong, but you've just seen a really sharp sell-off because of flows, etc., or somebody facing redemptions or something like that. But that would be an exception and not the rule per se. In terms of where I am more constructive at this point of time is the larger cap names.
Okay, all right. Hi, Rashi. Good to see you. When I recall the last time you chatted as well, you were tilting more towards large cap names in compared to the mid and the small caps. And you said the next couple of months are going to be fairly cautious. 2 months have passed. What do you think? On the headline index, are we closer to the bottom? Do you think much of the pain is already in the price with a 15% correction on the Nifty? And also in terms of stock sectors, there are opportunities out there. Many stocks have fallen 20, 30, 40% as well. I think on some of those marketplaces, if I remember correctly, I think the commodity exchange was something that you all were betting on. You could correct me on that. Any fresh buying that you'll have done, a sector, a particular theme you like, a stock?
So, I think you're absolutely right. I think on the large caps, we've seen the selling, as I mentioned before, and things are starting to look a little interesting over there. I would have hoped for more policy stability when it came to the US, and that would give us a little more guidance on how things will play out on the tech and healthcare sector. And I think that will happen, but I think the correction in the large cap names in the tech space looks to be, they're now trading in the range of 20 to 22 times 1 year forward earnings. They have bottomed in the worst of times with the US recession at 15, 16 times, right? So we're not very far in terms of what we're looking at. And I'm talking about US recession, which, 2 quarters of negative GDP growth is something I'm not so sure about at this point in time. But if you look at the mid-cap IT names, they're still trading at pretty lofty valuations. And therefore, the ask rate for growth for them is much higher than what today the large caps are looking at and where earnings have been moderated. And that leads me to the second part of what I want to say is that we've seen earnings for the large caps moderate in the 12 to 13% 1 year forward growth, 12 to 13% growth for 1 year forward earnings. But when you look at the small and the mid cap names, that has not happened. People haven't cut estimates. People are still hoping for some improvement in liquidity in markets and, don't believe that's going to happen. I think fourth quarter earnings and first quarter earnings, you're going to see those earnings cuts come through. And as those earnings cuts come through, you will see these stocks correct. You rightly said there are some stocks which do look interesting, where the growth story is very strong, but they've seen a sharp sell down because, just the sector has or peers have, etc. And those are the opportunity dislocations that we're constantly looking for, but it's very stock specific. It's not something that is broad-based at this point of time. It's, like I said, a few which are more the exception and not so much the rule.